What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Jacked Ramsays. Danny Marang here, returning from the sweltering desert of the Las Vegas Summer League, and a different experience, to say the least. I'll get into a bunch of your questions. Go a little bit more, probably a little more in depth than I have on the radio about my experience down at Las Vegas Summer League, the debut of Yang Hansen, the interactions I had with so many of the Chinese media contingency that were there for Hansen, feedback that I've gotten from other front offices, scouts, coaches, general vibes and feels, and all those kind of things. Later this week, probably after this game, maybe later, I might do the fourth game. Do a deep dive on what we've kind of seen from Hansen at Summer League. From the video perspective, I'll start working on that. But that's something obviously I look forward to. That'll be on the Patreon. And then we'll dive into all the questions you have. And there's one question in here in particular y'all got to help me with. I do not get it. I don't know why people are asking it. I got in a likely hangover-fueled argument with Brandon Sprague about it yesterday morning. I don't get it, but we'll dive into that. And more. So, appreciate you. As always, like, rate, review, subscribe, do all of the things. Share us with your friends, share us with your family. Help us continue to grow the show. If you're watching this in China, as I was told by so many Chinese media members, basically myself, Casey Holdall, Sean Heiken, are becoming quite popular in China. So, thank you guys for the support. Really appreciate it. It has been really cool getting the feedback from the other side of the world, and two obviously very different cultures, and just how we all kind of look at the game of basketball and what's important and what's not, and the things you value. I'll dive into a lot of that here a little bit, but a big shout out to all you guys that were down there that I met, if you happen to watch this. So, first of all, overall vibe, let's start at the very top and then kind of work our way down. There was quite a bit of buzz around Hansen at Summer League. And outside of Cooper Flagg, and I can't believe I'm saying this, he might have had the most hyped debut. And I think a lot of that is because of the unknown. A lot of that was the surprising, that pick at that spot. I think it's kind of like an unboxing, as it were, of like, what's in the box, to go full seven. But the stuff that came out of that, I will say, I mentioned this on the radio the other day. I talked to 3 different front offices about kind of Hansen and some stuff leading up to the draft, and I had somebody text me last night or yesterday. It's all blending together because Vegas was a bit of a blur. They talked to another general manager that said that if you were surprised by that pick, and again, front offices, not the mock draft, and this isn't a shot at any of them, it's because you didn't do the work. And the people that brought him in and saw him, and the Blazers front office and others have told me this too, leading up, the couple days leading up to the draft, Hansen had real heat. And there's a reason why he was there on day one. He's represented by Clutch Sports, and they expected him to go in day one in the early 20s, basically. Minnesota, Atlanta, Brooklyn were 3 teams that I heard, and from multiple people. I was told that the Minnesota Timberwolves brought in Hansen within a week of the draft privately. And John Krasinski has got an article up on The Athletic talking about how the Timberwolves wanted a Baron J, and I fully believe that. But that had he not been there was a very real opportunity for Hansen to go at 17. The Blazers, I think I reported this at the time, were not comfortable going back further than 16. The whole Pelicans trade. I was told the Pelicans did not make that deal available. I don't know if they talked to the Blazers, but I was told that deal was not available to the Blazers at that spot. So for whatever that's worth, I don't think even now that the Blazers would have taken that pick, because going back to 23 would have taken them out of the range with where they were going to take Hansen. With all of that being said, I will say there's probably some like revisionist draft theory from some of the people that I talked to in the front offices and scouting departments about, no, we like this guy too. We like this guy too. But I also think that, and again, kind of that's 90% of the purpose of Summer League, at least in my capacity, is networking and talking and getting face-to-face time and doing research and getting background on things and kind of understanding where things sit, at least now, not just even with the Blazers, but just kind of league-wide. But with that stuff, it's always interesting kind of how things materialize after the fact. But I have been able to link other things that make me believe that more than a handful of teams were interested in taking Hansen in the first round. So after that, there was 55, 60, 65 Chinese media members there. That, I mean, it was crazy. It was absolutely nuts. There was a lot that came out of it. Just kind of talking with them and understanding how important Hansen is to them and what they thought of him and what the expectations are and how he's being received in Portland. I was talking to one young woman, Yadi, sweet as could be. She is down in the Bay. I think she's covering the Warriors and the Valkyries. And she was kind of asking how, after the first game, this is right before the second game, I was down on the baseline waiting for the seat for the next game. The Lakers and Pelicans were playing. And we were talking for a bit, and she kind of wondered how he would be received there, there being Portland. And Brian Grant had been sitting in front of me in the first game, and we were going back and forth about him. There's some short stories I can share, some stories I can't. BG was having a blast. The thing that came out of it I thought was really interesting, I brought up Brian because he was sitting in front of me. And I mentioned, Brian Grant wasn't a guy that was with the Trailblazers forever. Like, he wasn't there for a decade plus and, helped them, win multiple titles or anything like this. Like, he was a very solid player, but he was not a guy like LaMarcus, right, who spent 9 years in Portland, or Damian Lillard, who spent so many years in Portland. Brian spent a total of 3 years in Portland. 3 years, and Brian in average 10-8, 10-8. But he was a part of very important or very very good teams. But he is a guy that is revered. Brian Grant is still probably one of my dad's favorite Blazers of all time. We were at the Western Conference playoff series against the Jazz when Brian got his eyebrow busted open. And I was talking to Brian about that at Hansen's introductory press conference in Portland, and kind of brought that up and how loud the arena was and that experience for him. And the thing he told me, he started like recounting the story, and we were talking about how he matched up with Karl Malone and playing against Malone and all the things that kind of came out of it. And he goes, when I came out after I had the stitch up my eyebrow and bandaged up, we were talking about how loud it was. And he goes, it's still the loudest arena I've ever been in that moment. He goes, even talking about it now, my hair standing up on my arm. He goes, that's a moment I'll never forget. And that's kind of what I was getting to when I was talking to Yadi is you can become, the quote-unquote Portland legend pretty quickly if you just holistically and not only embrace the city but embrace your style of play, and you have some personality or you have like some moment or some connection. And her reaction was just so sweet and so genuine. She just kind of, clutched her hands to her heart. She was so happy. She was so proud. And that was the general reaction that I got in talking to so many Chinese media members, was that they watched after that first game how quickly Hansen's role, who he is as a person, how his teammates are kind of just leaning in towards him, and the care that Portland is taking as an organization of Hansen immediately. And I thought that was really, really, really interesting. Like how that matters so much to them immediately. And that, that one of their own is being embraced so openly And I think that's a lot bigger deal than maybe people are giving it credit for. And I think that ties back to, I mentioned this the other day. I want to be careful with how I caveat this, because Hansen is not a savior of the organization, not right now. And it's not a shot at Scoot or Shaden or Tu or Denny or Donovan or any of the other young guys. It's not. But there's something intrinsic about him that there's some kind of hope. There's something that draws you in, and I've mentioned this over the years since Joe became general manager. And I've had this discussion with him a couple times over the years. They have prioritized bringing in guys who are good people, good teammates. Like the locker room has been steady for the last couple of years. And I was talking to some other front offices about like this whole idea and like how important that is. And I get varying answers, but the general consensus is, in a place like Portland, much like Oklahoma City, you have to it can't just be pure unadulterated talent. You're not just going to conquer all with talent, because number one, you're going to have trouble kind of bringing that talent in, particularly in free agency. Even with the new CBA, you can still, work some things out. You're not going to be a place that people demand to be traded to. You're not going to be, you're kind of geographically isolated until Seattle comes back. We should hear at least something about that tonight in some form or capacity in Board of Governors meeting when Adam Silver's out there tonight. But if you're in a smaller market, your team building is going to be a little bit different. And it has to be about the team concept. And it has to be the collection of all its parts, the sum of all its parts, right? And if you think about the best Blazers teams, the legitimate best Blazers teams, the 77 title team, yes, they had an MVP in Bill Walton. Yes, they had upper echelon level talent, but it is also the collection of all. Like if you look how many jerseys are and this is something I disagree with, but how many jerseys are retired from that 77 team? You look at that late 80s, early 90s team. And you had the poster with was it Terry Duck and Cliff, or was that a little bit later when Buck was here? I can't remember. It was Terry Duck and Buck, maybe. God, I used to have the poster. Unfortunately, I don't have one anymore. But and then you go into the late 90s, and then even into the Dame's probably best team with LaMarcus. It was whole cloth teams. That late 80s, early 90s team. It's Terry, Duck, Buck, Jerome, Clyde, Cliff. It's just a bunch of guys. You look at that late 90s, early 2000s team. It's Bonzi, it's Sheed, it's Scotty, it's Detlef, it's Steve Smith, it's Damon Stoudemire. It's like you just kind of run it is all. Out of all of these teams that they've ever had, the two best players, all time that they've ever had are Walton and Drexler, and Dame's right there. But it has always been about the collection of the team. And I think that's something that they're leaning even harder into now. We're going to be a team that is very deep, we're going to be very big, we're going to be very strong, we're going to be very athletic. And no matter what CB era, no matter what style of basketball, that has holistically kind of been the path for Portland to be a very, very successful team. And watching just in the limited interactions that I've had with Hansen, how he interacts with his coaches, how he interacts with his teammates, how everybody else interacts with him, he fits that to a T. And that's before you ever step foot on the floor, or he ever steps foot on the floor, right? And so I look at that and I wonder, how far can that go with the talent? And I don't know what he's going to be. I'll say this. I tweeted out something along the lines of that's the first half of his first game of I'm about to tweet something reckless. And the reckless thing was he doesn't need to be here at Summer League. Full stop. He cleared the bar of I've seen what I needed to see. And I've said this 1,000 times. I do not care about your box score at Summer League. I just don't. How do you look? How do you feel? How do you react? Now, Hansen needs more reps. There's no doubt about that. He's going to play tonight, and I was told he's probably going to play all of Summer League. Now, that may change, but his IQ, his feel already is great, fantastic. And it's not that it can't grow and it won't grow, but his baseline level is already good enough that I felt comfortable. It wasn't too fast for him, and there's things he needs to refine. There's no doubt about it. I'm not saying he's a perfect prospect. He should have gone number one. No. Don't get that twisted. There's plenty of things. Defensively, the game needs to slow down for him a little bit. He needs to not be so jumpy when you're talking about him reacting to pump fakes or being like up on his toes. Offensively, he's got to learn that you can't put the ball down 4 or 5 times in the post, otherwise the double's going to come or somebody's going to dig down. Like, you got to be a little more like there's plenty of little things. But all those little things, I don't sit there and go, yeah, that's not going to work. Like, you're not going to be able to do that. Or there was nothing in his game where I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, his rebounding hasn't been great, but I'm sitting there watching him, and he's just like boxing out whole areas. And I tweeted out something along the lines of, he reminds me of kind of Robin Lopez, Steven Adams, where he just eats up a metric crap ton of space. And how different that looks when he's playing with Tumani and Denny, who are great rebounding wings. And then you throw in Shea or Scoot or whoever else. Like, there's real opportunity for the Blazers. Like, Robin Lopez, I believe, through almost the entirety of his career, before at least until the very end, his team's rebound percentage just skyrocketed with him on the floor. Because if you don't get a body on him, he's going to grab it, or he's going to just seal out one, at least, if not 2 guys. Same thing with Steven Adams. They're just really, really, really good at those things. I wonder how, like, when I start looking at him at Summer League, I go, okay, what does this look like when he's playing with, the big club? And, of course, my dog's going to start barking because, hey, guys, for the love of God. Hold on. There we go. Of course, she barks one more time after telling no. It's one of those things where, does it look different when Shaedon Sharpe is the one getting the back screen on the baseline and the first time Hansen throws a lob at the rim and that man is flying in to grab everything? So, I always try to keep that stuff in my head when I'm watching that stuff, either live or here in 2 hours, hour and a half, Game 3 against New Orleans tonight, where he's going to face off against some, an NBA guy, and he's Missy, 2 lottery picks in Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen, and just kind of seeing how he looks and how he adjusts and how he compares against those guys. And that was the thing in the write-up, the big 5,000-word write-up that I had on Hansen, was the baseline for this stuff is difficult because of the CBA. And I don't mean CBA as in the collective bargaining agreement. I mean the Chinese Basketball Association. Him playing in Qingdao in the CBA. Like, the bigs you have over there are Kenny Lofton Jr., who's a fringe NBA guy. It's like, so, okay, like, what does this actually look like? You kind of squint, and you're not really sure what and how it's actually going to work. But when he goes out there and he looks that comfortable, and he's the one leading the charge, and he's the one getting guys in positions, and a guy that knows very little English, knows some basketball English. And I was talking to Summer League head coach Ronnie Burrell, and he told us that one of the things that they really focused on in the few days they had in training camp with him before they left for Vegas was getting basketball-ready vernacular so that he could communicate a little bit better on the floor. But, like, you can still use hand signals, and you can still show some frustrations, and you can still pass guys open of like, hey, get there, those kind of things. And, like, there's nothing about this where I'm just like, this isn't going to work. My hottest take coming out of Las Vegas as it pertains to Hansen is that he's a rotation player. Like, I feel comfortable saying that. Now, how good? I don't know. We'll see what it looks like when he gets up to the big club. But I think he's going to be a capable rotation player. And talking to the Blazers throughout the weekend, I kind of asked, what's a successful season for him look like? What is this, come together? How does it materialize in your eyes? And I don't think this is them lowering the bar. I think it's more about comfort and making things as successful as possible for the long haul for Hansen. And they were like, let's get him acclimated to the culture, to the language. Let's get him comfortable. Let's get him into NBA H&P. Like, let's get him on an NBA workout regimen. Let's get him used to playing 82 games and more frequently. I think he played 54 games last year in the CBA, 52, 54, something like that. Game 1 and 2 at Summer League is his first real back-to-back, and he was huffing and puffing. Now, I think a lot of people want to draw some lines and some similarities to him and Donovan Clingan. I don't think that's the case at all. Donovan was a guy that never played heavy minutes. Never, I think the most minutes he played at UConn was 24. I'm going off memory if I'm wrong. I'm sorry, but I believe it's right there. And he's talked about it this last year. After he hurt his MCL, when he came back, he realized that he needed to get in better shape. And, he fought through some stuff. He found out how to rest better offensively so that he could save himself for defense, because that's where he's most valuable right now. Hansen's going to kind of have to find that, pick and choose his moments. And those are very normal rookie big man things to deal with. I think he's a guy, where Donovan's a guy I don't think is ever going to average 30 minutes a game. I just don't. He's just too damn big. And I've mentioned this before. I think it was since 1970 per Basketball Reference. I ran the filter on it. There's 14 players over 7'2" that have averaged more than 30 minutes a game. It's a short list. When you're that big, it's hard to do that. Hansen, I think, is a guy that you can get 30 out of, legitimately, when it's all said and done. He's in great shape already. I think he's just got to get into the spot of NBA shape, of getting up and down the floor and playing more frequently. And I think those, the big goals are let's get him physically ready. Let's get him mentally, emotionally, spiritually ready, culturally ready, all of those things, and then let the basketball take hold. Because I think they're very, very, very confident in his feel, his IQ, and that's something that organizationally they have told me so many times over the last couple of years that they want to prioritize. Feel and IQ. Feel and IQ. Yeah, the talent matters. There's no doubt about that. If you don't have talent with it, all the feel and IQ doesn't matter. But they think he has a talent. You can see it in his touch. You can see it in his processing. You can see it in his reads. You can see it in his footwork. I mean, Brian Grant, when Hansen hit the Euro and smoked the layup, unfortunately, he said something to me along the lines of, I did not see guys do that when I was playing. And I was like, yeah, I don't think there's a lot of 7'1", 260-pound dudes who are popping Euros down the lane driving from the three-point line. And you can see the confidence that Hansen plays with. And I thought those were the biggest things that came out of that. I'm really interested to see here in this game tonight against New Orleans. He's had a couple days off to rest. They've had some time to watch some tape. They've had some time to review some things that worked, some things that didn't, where they can get him in better positions. I want to see how fast that processing goes. Does he pick up on stuff super fast? Is he able to adapt even just over a matter of days of okay, I did this, but I need to do this. And even if he doesn't make the shot, is the process better? If it's not, it's fine too. But if it does, it's oh, there might be a little something here. And that's ultimately where I'm at with this. On draft night, I said that this is going to be a boom or a bust. And I think the boom for a guy taken at 16 is a solid rotation player. Just go through the history of players taken 15, 16, 17, 18. It's pretty hit or miss. It really is. You got some bangers in there, and you've got some, you didn't get a second contract, So this first year is very much, okay, let's see what the process looks like. And he's hitting the ground running. After game 2, to be blunt, he was pissed with his performance. And his performance was pretty similar to game 1. Had a few more turnovers, made a couple more mistakes, got sped up a little bit, but this is a guy that was genuinely angry. It was just, this guy really cares. So you get skill, talent, feel, IQ, drive, and a guy who gives a damn. And then you throw in the fact, and especially in game 1, when he got underneath so many of the Warriors players' skin, he was smiling. He loves the game. And when you put that package together, I begin to understand why the Blazers made the move that they did. Now, we'll find out in the end, in the next couple of years, whether or not that pick is the right pick. And the draft itself is a crapshoot at best. We've seen number one picks bust. We've seen, the Tumanis of the world who are taken in the 50s be, all-star and all defense. I mean, you've got an MVP that was, taken during a Quesarito commercial. There's a lot of guessing. But did they do the work and everything that was necessary to support this pick? Yeah. I've talked to the front office a lot about it. And they've been very honest with what they did and how they went about it. Sean Highkin had some stuff written up about it. I had some stuff written up about it. They went about as far as you can go, I mean, including going over to China and spending time over there and doing all the background and ticking as many boxes as they could, because it's not a risky pick in the sense of, oh my God, I can't believe this, they did this. It's a risky pick because they went to an area of the world in China that over the last decade or so has not had a great track record. The last, mildly successful Chinese player, or player out of China, I should say, was Zhang Lian. Before that, obviously, Yao. And so it's not like coming out of the Adriatic League or coming out of EuroLeague or coming out of Spain or even a place like Germany who, recently, whether it's the Wagner brothers or Dennis Schroeder, like, you kind of go down the list of, like, even places that aren't historically great at producing NBA players have better track records, right? And so for that, it is a little scary. So those are kind of the things that I'm going to kind of monitor through Summer League and then through the first couple months of the season. Like, how fast does he adjust? Where do we see the growth? Where do we see the touch points that need work? And how is he able to kind of handle it all? Because he has a billion people behind him. Like, that's why the media contingent was so big. And for being a guy who turned 20, 3 weeks ago? Yeah, 3 weeks ago. For him to handle everything so far with the maturity that he's handled it with, yes, eat, sleep, PS5, but he also just gets it. And it's such a cliched, stupid, cop-out way of saying it. I'm too stupid to come up with something better. But I think the fact that he gets it and he has that talent and has that feel and has that IQ, I think that coming full circle, that's where that hope comes from. And I think that's something that gets lost in all of this. And when, like, putting a bow on this now nearly 30-minute opening, this is where the hope, the belief, and, like, the thing that I think is so important to sports comes from. That's my biggest takeaway from being down in Vegas. Was that there's hope. And I feel like that there hasn't been this kind of hope around this organization for the last couple of years. And whether that's just Hansen or Hansen and the rest of the team, I think it's both, of how it could all come together and turn into something unique and fun and productive and interesting. Now, where it goes, I don't know, man. It's far too early for that. But the hope feels real. So, all right, that's 30 minutes of me rambling. So let's get into your questions. A bunch of you got some in. I wanted to get this done before the game tonight so everybody could go watch the game and not have to worry about trying to do both. And selfishly, so I could just watch the game and take notes. So Lance asks, what is your way too early to predict starting five and rotations for opening night? Okay, as it stands right now, 2, Denny, Drew, Donovan are your 4 for me right now. I am going to use the analogy that I have used so many times. It is full-on Batman, Joker breaks the pool cue, throws it in the room. We've got openings, but for one of you. And that one is going to come down to either Shea or Scoot. Because Drew can play the 1 or the 2. So if it's Scoot, Drew, 2, Denny, Donovan. I should say this with the caveat of if Jeremy is moved. If Jeremy's moved, I could see very easily it being Drew, 2, Denny, Jeremy, Donovan. So, I know everybody's good. If Jeremy's here, Jeremy's starting. The best lineup you could put on the floor, talent-wise, is that lineup right now. Drew, 2, Denny, Jeremy, DC. Gives you playmaking, gives you defense, it gives you size, it gives you versatility. It's the best lineup you could, and shooting. Like, it's probably the best shooting lineup you can put on the floor. Unless you want to say you believe Hansen can shoot the ball better than Donovan right now, blah, blah, blah. overarching, that's where I sit with this. This is the caveat of if Jeremy's moved. And that'll tie into another question in here in just a second. But could Drew come off the bench? Sure. Scooter Shaden's going to have to be so undeniably good that is the accepted outcome. That's where I sit right now. Let's see what training camp does. So, it's one of those things where we'll just kind of go from there. But yeah, that's where I think we're sitting right now. We'll see. But I think two and Denny, probably Donovan, and very, very, very likely Giroux. Those are your 4 of 5 starters, and Scoot and Shea are fighting for that. It's a make or break year for Shaden in a sense, going into a contract year. And looking at RFAs right now, yeah, there's going to be a lot more money out there next year, and maybe that's what they're kind of counting on. I don't know. But it's a big, big year for Shea as far as like kind of his future is concerned. Year 4 going into year 5 is always one of those for anyone who's not being handed the immediate extension like a Paulo Banchero or a Jabari Smith Jr. or one of those guys, right? One hand low golf. That's Grant Cool being a weapon off the bench. I don't think Jeremy is moving off the bench unless he's going to like a team that's much higher up the pecking order as far as competing for a title. That's once you go to the bench, you don't ever come off the bench again. Like it's just it almost never happens. So unless a player is going into a position where there is somebody clearly better than them, and there's nobody on this roster that's clearly better than him between Scooter Shaden, that justifies that right now. So, Andrew John asks, do you think that the NBA may look into another amnesty clause during the upcoming CBA talks, or do you think there may be changes to the buyout process and salary cap? What do you want to see? That's a couple different ones. I and many others thought that they might try to work a amnesty provision into this last CBA, the one that just started a couple years ago, because of the implications that we're seeing right now. Like not just the Dame buyout and Bradley Beal, but the salary cap structure for the teams that sign guys to deals like right before the new CBA. That's the Zach LaVines, Michael Porter Jr.'s, Domantas Sabonis, and those are varying levels of guys. Like once the guys that are like over $40 million, but they're not quite max guys. Those guys, like being able to move them right now, or the ramifications or limitations that it puts on your roster are pretty substantial. Unless you've got like a unicorn player to put around them, right? Like if Domantas Sabonis had Evan Mobley or Chet Holmgren, a guy that's quote unquote positionless, or Wemby, that would allow them to be more flexible with things. But again, those guys are few and far between. So it's the needle to thread is a lot harder when you're trying to build those rosters out. And so I thought, and again, many others thought that it might be something that was there. And then when it came around, it was like, nope, they're not going to do it. The buyout process, I mean, the Dame and, the Beal one is weird because the Beal one does still out there. It's holding up a lot of stuff, It sounds like Chris Paul is going to head to the Clippers. So is it Beal and Chris Paul that ends up there? The Kuminga RFA, the Giddey RFA, the Cam Thomas RFA, like there's just a lot of stuff that's kind of hanging up as far as like as it pertains around buyouts and particular deals. Al Horford hasn't signed because he's probably looking to see exactly how much money is going to be there for the Warriors as they figure out the Jonathan Kuminga thing. It's all very, 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 very strange and a new part of the CBA, to be bluntly honest. It's not something that nothing I expected to be this impactful. What do I want to see? I want to see guys actually be able to get paid in the middle class again. Like those deals that are like between 18 and 28 million just seem like they don't exist anymore. It's either MLE or less or max. Like there's just not many now. Jabari Smith Jr. is one of those guys, and that could either end up being a very, very good deal or a deal that's like right on par. I don't think it's going to be one that's going to hurt them in the long run. But also Houston's looking at potentially a title window right now. So that's a reason why you can do it. But as far as what I want to see, I would like to see more equity in contract distribution, so where it's that middle class isn't just dead. Let's see. With the forecast, I'm not asking who you think should start or who you think will start. Who of the 7 potential starters will be most likely to have a problem coming off the bench? Jeremy and Drew. They've both proven it, where none of the other guys have. Denny and 2 are the next closest. I mean, Donovan's going to year 2, Shaden year 4, Scoot in year 3. I think that's where you are. So, here's the thing. Unless you've already moved to the bench or your role has kind of been 6th or 7th man in the league, like I mentioned earlier, like once you go to the bench, you normally don't come back. Nobody wants to go to the bench. Everyone's like, oh, they should do it for the betterment of the team, blah, blah, blah. Go do that at your workplace. Go do that at your workplace. Be devalued. Go work for something for 10 years and then be told, you know what, this guy's not actually better than you, but we're going to prioritize him. It doesn't work. It leads to problems. It leads to issues. Like, if Scoot or Shaden or Hansen, if one of those guys comes out in camp and just absolutely murders and makes it very clear to everyone else that they are one of them ones, it's not easy to take that, like, oh, I've lost a step, or hey, no, this guy has passed me up. But it's a justification not only the front office, the coaching staff can use. Like, hey, man. And one thing that the Blazers, whether it's been Joe, Chauncey, assistant coaches, assistant GMs, they've all kind of said the same thing to me over the last couple of years. Prove it. Prove it. And for all the people out there like, well, Jeremy didn't prove this, or Drew, like, yes, they have. Drew and Jeremy are both gold medal winners. Drew's a 6-time all-defense. You know, Jeremy's been on very good teams and been very productive over long spans of time. I used to kind of have the mentality of like, oh, give it to the young guys, give it to the young guys. The longer I've been covering this stuff, the more I realized how much coaches and front offices, you prioritize the trust and the known quantity. Because the unknown, number one, it can get you fired. Number two, the consistency, like in the locker room, if a guy doesn't have it, you can't go tell the other guys, I'm playing this guy because, you know, you don't matter. It's like, you've always, you know, the whole idea is like, I'm better, so why am I not playing? And if you can't answer that question with, well, he's playing as good as you or better, sorry. With that, it's just not going to fly. Not here, but anywhere. The only way you can get away with that is if you've basically told a guy, look, you're not on our long-term plans, and we're going to ship you out of here immediately and just deal with it, and you're going to nuke that or burn that bridge or whatever. Because if you're going to go down that path, it's kind of cooked. And I don't know that they're there with those guys yet. Now, maybe they may be. And they go out there and do it. But, we'll see. Ann Smith asks, do you have any insight when, where Dame will sign with the team? I think it's too early for a reunion with Portland. Excuse me. I've talked to Dame a little bit over the last 10 days or so. A couple days before I left for Summer League. And he's told me he's going to take his time. And I don't blame him. He's got all the time in the world. Recover, do your thing. He firmly believes that he's going to come back and be exactly, it's Dame. He firmly believes, when he has strongly held beliefs, he has strongly held beliefs. I'm going to come back. I'm going to be as good as I was. There'll be no issues. I'll be back by the All-Star break. Like, he genuinely believes those things. And I believe that he believes those things because he's a lunatic. I don't think that now would be the best time for him to come back, but if he wanted to come back, sure. But I don't think that's where his head is at. Selfishly, I would love to have him back. I think the best basketball fit for him is Houston. Throw him out there with basically like the more advanced version of the Blazers now, especially after adding Kevin Durant. And you've got Dame, Amen, Tari, KD, Şengün. Yeah, like if you're replacing Fred VanVleet with, like, let's just say Dame's 85% of what he was. That's a significantly more valuable offensive option than Fred. And I love Fred. But, yeah, Houston would be the landing spot for me. For basketball reasons. I think he'd go down there and just be a complete monster. Jeff Yates says, quick one for me. Can y'all chat a bit about what the defensive side looks like for this group? I mean, with Tease, Tumani, Denny, the return of the Twin Towers, and even Scoot, this looks really promising. I've talked to a bunch of coaches in the league. When the Drew deal happened, the Ant trade, and then down at Summer League, and everybody's like, I don't know what your offense or what's going on in Portland or how effective they're going to be there, but they should be one of the best defensive teams in the league. You can, if you wanted to go full defensive monster, you could go Drew, Tease, and you could go Denny, Klingon, or if you wanted to go just pure defense, boy, offensively, you'd probably struggle a little bit. You swap out Denny for Chris Murray. And you would have this unbelievably switchable, long, disruptive, always in the right place, demonic level defensive hellscape. You wouldn't score, but neither would they. It obviously doesn't get to that point, but you could be incredibly disruptive. This team is going to build its reputation on being defensive. And whether it's the beginning of the season, or the beginning of a road trip or the end of a road trip, that's typically what it is. Portland is usually the beginning or the end of a road trip. If you're a team coming out this way, come here, bud. Come here. Come here, my whiny little boy. You get to be a part of the show for a little bit. Does everybody say hi to Tanner? Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead and Velcro. You're being whiny because you want attention. Because Papa's home by himself. I think you could have a really, 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 really good defensive team that's very aggressive, that would bother a lot of teams. So that's ultimately where I fall with that one. Dick Burns, great name. What non-star former Blazer from 2020 would you place on this team? So excluding those that made all-star games or max contracts. I wanted to kind of go offensive with this, and I was like, you know what? Not really defensive-minded, but just pure fun. I thought Rudy Fernandez. I was like, Rudy would be really fun. A guy that just flies off screens, gets downhill, adds a little bit of volatility to opponents' game plans of a guy you just have to chase around the court who's very fast, very athletic. Obviously, this is before Trevor Ariza undercut him and ruined his back. Nick Batum is another one that I would put in there just because he kind of fits the identity of what they are, but he also feels a little duplicative. Wes Matthews was another guy. I'm like, hard-nosed dude who adds real shooting and just tough as nails and a bit of a jerk in the best possible ways. I love Wes. Bonzi would probably be pretty good for this because of his offensive juice and physicality. Yeah, those are the ones that I think I came off of the top of my head. You good, bud? If I put you down, are you okay? I know you're shy. You just wanted a little bit of attention. Yeah? Okay. I'll put you down, okay? Oh. He'll probably whine some more, but we'll get there. We need the dog's opinion on Yang Hansen's performance. He's very excited. Aren't you, Tanner? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, but go ahead and throw you guys' thoughts in the comment for which Blazer from 2020, the non-max guys, the non-all-star guys, who do you think would fit better in this team? Maybe I'll turn that into a radio segment tomorrow after this game because I think it'll be an interesting one. Alex Kingsborough asks, what are the middle-of-the-road comps for Young? Post-leg injury, Nurk comes to mind as a big dude with his great feel for the game, can do a lot of stuff, but isn't elite at much. I mean, you might even be able to say pre-leg injury Nurk, to be honest. He was really good. He wasn't an all-star. Now, in the month, 6 weeks leading up to that leg injury, he was a monster. And I think people tend to forget that. So maybe I'm going too far with this. But the thing is, there's not a lot of really, great passing. And maybe this is my biggest hot take from Summer League. Hansen's a unbelievable passer. Unbelievable. For his size, there hasn't been a big at Summer League since Jokic. There you go. There's the hot take. There's not been a big at Summer League that can pass as good as him outside of Jokic. The biggest guy I've seen at Summer League with better passing is Ben Simmons. And if you want to go back and watch some just unreal shit, Ben Simmons at Summer League, I stood up and hooted and hollered in the media row with a bunch of other people when Ben Simmons drove right to the baseline from the top of the key and took off of like 1 foot on his left foot, basically out of bounds, and fired a hook pass where the ball is probably 3 feet over the line out of bounds, diagonally 45 back across the court to a wide open shooter. I was like, that man is 6'10" and doing stuff like it was Magic Johnson-esque. And I know we make all the Ben Simmons jokes and all that kind of stuff right now, but the stuff he can do as a passer is unreal. Now, and I don't think Yang is that. But I do think that he is a hell of a passer. Because Sabonis, while he's a great passer, DeMontis, he flashed a little bit of passing early on. It was not like the stuff that he was doing. He wasn't just like making a good play. He was passing guys open with his passing. And I think there's a difference between those two. Making the right play and making a good pass. And then there's, I'm such a good passer and I process so fast, I'm going to pass you open. And he did. He had his first 2 games. He had 10 passes that not all of them were converted, but 10, like so 5 a game basically. Of holy, what was that? And bigs just don't do that. And so I think it's really hard to kind of find that middle tier comp. The one that I heard was like baby Marc Gasol, and if he ends up, again, I know Jokic is the one, but like. Gasol is very good. Very good. Mark or Pau, depending on which one you like more. Obviously, people would say Pau. But Mark was this monster human with unbelievable hands. Not just as a passer, but like when he got a hold of the ball and finishing and just there's just something about bigs that have hands that good that just seems to translate into being. I was talking to somebody in the front office about hands, and he was like, it sounds so weird, but like he mentioned another player in the league a few years back about how his hands were like, when you shook his hands were like construction workers. They were tough, they were rigid, they were calloused. Where like Hansen's hands are like, they're soft, like pillow soft. And you know, the how that's kind of a thing that like Jokic and Sabonis and Gasol, like they have these pillow soft hands that it just translates. The ball just seems to stick to their hands better, and it seems to come off their hands better, and they don't lose the ball. And like, I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, the middle of the road comp I think is a very hard comp for him, because I think he's not like the most unique player. Like, oh my God, he's going to be this superstar. But I think that he is just a very unique player. I think you're probably looking at like Jonas Valanciunas with better passing, which again, not a great comp, but like I think that's probably where you fall, or at least where I fall. Sam asked, with the Ayton buyout, Rob's health always being a question mark, and Clinton still not acclimated to being a 30-minute a night center. Is there a possibility we see Yang as a starting 5 for the season opener? If so, was this the front office's plan from the start? I don't think Hansen's ready to start. I think, like DC last year, people were like, oh, he should start over DeAndre. He's the future of the organization. No. Playing the point and playing the big, those are the two biggest learning curves in the NBA. There's just so much responsibility, point guards offensively, bigs defensively. I don't think they're going down that level. And as I said earlier with the whole the preparation stuff, like making sure that Hansen is ready year one, I don't think they're going to force feed that. Now, if Hansen goes in, again, I'll use the Nick Batum story. Nick Batum, maybe the worst summer league player of all time. It was so bad that there was debate about him going to France or going back to France. Comes into training camp, kicks so much ass that he starts opening night. Like, it's one of the biggest like night and day changes from a guy from summer league to regular season basketball in the history of the game. It's just, it made no sense. But he just grew and he got comfortable. It was Nick's first time in the States. And those kind of gross, I don't think you see those happen very often. You okay? Okay. Sorry. Dog looking at me all funny. Could it happen? Sure. How likely is it? I don't think it's very likely. And it has nothing to do with Hansen. It has everything to do with all the stuff around him and kind of prioritizing those things. Rob asks, obviously Young has been the main story here, but any other players helped or hurt their stock while in Vegas? Ryan Rupert was a demon in game one. It's the most aggressive I think I've ever seen him play. And talking to the Blazers about him, the thing that they told me was synopsis here is like, we really want Roops to do the things, to focus on the things that he's good at. Being aggressive, taking shots, getting downhill, being a defensive menace. And I thought his aggression was phenomenal in Game 1. And then in Game 2, I thought it was the complete opposite. To be honest, I was disappointed. I love Roops. I love him as a prospect. Like, if those of you know, you guys know that I love Roops, and I think he can be an NBA contributor. I'm not saying he's going to be a star. I just think he can be a guy that be in the rotation and be a good player. I mean, he just has very, very unique tools. His size, his mobility, his ungodly wingspan, and he works incredibly hard. And he's a guy that's well-liked, well-respected. He's still very young, but Game 2 was disappointing. But if he goes out here in Game 3 and has a really good game, it'll be a blip. And that's part of being a young guy. And I hope that's the case. I think CD was okay in Game 1. In Game 2, I thought his playmaking was great. I thought his aggression was great. That's a guy that's real strong. His things that get him on the court is he's strong, he's physical, he's aggressive, and his playmaking at his size. And if he continues to kind of grow those things, it's a nice flyer to have. I've seen some people super like high on Caleb Love, like he's gonna play this year. If he's playing this year, either a lot of guys have gotten hurt or Caleb Love has really grown. It's okay, bud. You're growling at shadows. Sorry. But Caleb's a two-way guy, and I wish nothing but the best for him. But I don't see Caleb as being a guy who's getting on the floor for the Blazers unless something has gone very wrong in the injury standpoint. Now, we'll see where that gets to. But yeah, I think it was on Reddit. Somebody sent me a link to it, and they're like, Caleb's going to do. Caleb's got a lot of work to do as far as being a table setter, creator type, because Lord knows, man can get his shot off. That's what Summer League's about. It's why guards usually do so well. It's because they have the ball in their hands and they can really force action. But I don't think that he's done anything where like, oh, that's a guy that Portland needs to find minutes for in the rotation. I think he's a guy that, well, he's a little bit older, he's a little bit more seasoned, and I hope he does well, and I would love to be wrong. Like, he just ends up being the stud. Like, that's a good problem to have. But those are really the only guys on the roster on the Summer League team that have really any kind of stock at all right now. The rest of the guys are the guys that might stay around, like Padula or Skipintsev or a couple of those guys. Those are remix guys that you're going to just kind of keep in your system and try to see what you can pull out of them. Texas Blazer asks, if Scoot is going to come off the bench next season with Hansen, do you see there being conflict in who orchestrates the offense, or do you see them figuring it out? I think when Hansen's going to be on the floor, because he's still going to, he's further ahead offensively than he is defensively. I think you're going to see Hansen being more featured on the offensive side. Now, where that share is decided, Scoot's probably going to have higher up in the pecking order. But I think for Scoot to be successful in the NBA, it would behoove him to work off of Hansen, because I think Scoot's going to be fine as a shooter. Like, the shooting has never been something that has bothered me, even when he struggled his rookie year. It was like his shot looks fine. It was more about refining than anything else, and he's been working with Derek Fisher this year, who I think Fisher is a great player for him to work with. As far as like understanding role and being a floor general and picking your spots, like I think everybody remembers like the tail end of Derek Fisher. Derek Fisher in his prime is a really solid player. But if Scoot can work in like DHO handoff situations with Hansen and get a little creative, and when teams start undering that pick, or continue to under him on pick and rolls, he can hit threes, and then all of a sudden defenses have to come up. Now Hansen has more room to work with defenders behind. They've got to lift up. Now Scoot can attack, and it makes things easy for him as a finisher. I think that's a really interesting thing, and it's not about who necessarily has the ball at the start, but who's kind of like triggering the action and how things flow out of that process flow. If you want to go like full business analyst, the flow chart out of it, I think that's kind of what you're looking at. Okay, I preface this kind of to start the show as far as like there's a question in here that you guys have got to explain to me why you want to see this happen, because I got in a argument, I'll say that, with Sprague yesterday morning when we were talking. I got to the radio studio super early because I landed at 8:40 back from Las Vegas, and they were just finishing up, and they had some stuff they had to do there. And so I was able to catch up with those guys. And Sprague asked this, and Boyke City asked this. Do you see Yang and Klingon ever sharing the floor together? Also, do you expect any other Blazers move this offseason? I'll get to that part later. Why? Why do you want to see Yang and Klingon on the floor together? I don't for the life of me get it. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. And a lot of you have asked this. There's like 4 or 5 other questions in here about this. Neither of them can shoot right now. Neither of them can defend outside the paint. Why would you want to do this? I don't understand it. And not only that, you guys are asking me this. Chauncey Billups was asked this during the press conference. It was basically a hell no. I don't understand it. Well, why don't you try it? Because I don't see any world where it makes sense. If you want to say, well, against Houston, again, they have Şengün and Steven Adams. Okay, I guess. But I think Şengün and Adams both are guys that move a little bit better as a duo than Hansen and Klingon. Like, neither one of those guys want to be more than 3 feet from the paint. And offensively, I think Hansen will probably be able to shoot it in the long term. I don't think DC is going to be able to shoot it well in the long term. Something in the comments said, some people just want to see the world burn. I'm with you. Look, I am a get weird guy. I'm all for it, with a caveat of throwing 2 7-foot-plus dudes who can't shoot nor defend outside the paint on the floor together at the same time. It is not 1992. There is just no world to me that makes any sense to have those guys on the floor at any time. Maybe I'm the idiot. Trust me, that's always on the table. But that's not something I'm interested in seeing. Not right now, not this year. Now, if Hansen all of a sudden starts being able to just bomb from 3, okay, we'll see it. But I think we're a ways away from that. Ways away from that. Ruckus asks, is Young projected to be the backup center, or keeping Rob Williams on the team hinder this? If he does become the backup, what's a realistic stat line for his rookie year? Could he be on the all-rookie team? I love Rob. I love Time Lord. I love him as a player. I love him as a dude. He is awesome. But the idea that you can count on him for 55-plus games at this point right now with his recent injury history is just... it doesn't make sense. So having 3 guys that you can rely on in the sense of when they're it's a good problem to have. If Rob's healthy and he shows that he can be healthy for a long stretch, maybe the Blazers opt to trade him. And because Young has been good enough to go, that's fine, and we'll go a Duop as our third big after that. Maybe that's a path that they can go down. But I think until then, it's fine. It's fine. It allows them to kind of slow play Hansen as he kind of figures stuff out. I think that's ultimately where this goes. Realistic stat line, that one I'll have to sit down. I'll have to kind of understand what his role, how many minutes he's going to get. I'll talk to the coaching staff as we get closer to the season and see if any other moves are made. Right now, projecting that kind of stuff, I think always projecting that stuff is kind of, throwing, darts in the dark. I usually do relatively well on that kind of stuff, but Denny overperform expectations, 2 overperform expectations, which is a good problem to have. It's not even a problem. It's you underestimated this. These guys actually end up being a lot better. But yeah, I don't know right now. All rookie team, it's a pretty good class, but Johan Berenger for the Timberwolves, he may not be able to score at all, but he may be a guy that ends up making all rookie because his rebounding and shot blocking, rim protection stuff is so crazy. He had a play earlier where he took off on a turnover and damn near beat everyone down the floor at 7 foot tall and caught a lob and finished it from Dillingham. And I was like, whew, that's a big, long dude who is absolutely finishing it. It's okay. But we'll see where we are after training camp. That's one I'll pocket until training camp and we revisit, though. It's a good question. It's a fun question. User case says, scale 1 to 10, how concerning is Young's lack of lateral quickness on defense at this point? Might Chauncey have to play zone to keep him from being attacked early on? Too early to tell. I've seen 2 summer league games from him. I don't think you have to play zone with him. I think you put him in drop and hope you don't. Same thing with Donovan, that you hope you don't have somebody else at the 5 who can bomb away and actually force him away from the rim. It takes these guys a couple years to learn how to defend in the NBA as a big. I'm not sitting here like Zach Edey. I do not believe has any lateral quickness, and I think Hansen moves better than him in that vein. Now Edey has the benefit of being 7'4", 7'5", just a massive human, but Hansen's not tiny. His lateral quickness offensively is good enough that I think it's more of a getting caught up defensively with more precision. Now, I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that's great moving laterally, but I think if his processing, his IQ catches up enough, you can do enough with him that he'll be okay. I don't think he's ever going to be a plus there, but I think you'll be fine. I don't think it's like this thing where it's like, yeah, he just can't. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think he'll end up being okay. I think he can make a level of success there that it doesn't scare the crap out of you. Yeah. Bobby asks, do you think there's any chance of Young starting over Klingon? No, I already kind of went through that one. Andrew asks, do you think a Markkanen or Kispert trade to Portland is more realistic, and which one do you think would be a better fit? The Jazz want all of your firstborns and their firstborn for Larry Markkanen. I don't think that's happening. Kispert's a guy I'm totally fine with. If you can get Kispert for like 2 seconds, 3 seconds, whatever, I think he's the kind of guy that would make sense on this team. Having a guy who's a solid shooter, works as a movement shooter, I wouldn't be against that. I don't know if that's necessarily the path that you want to go down right now if you're the Blazers, because how do you get him on the floor with kind of how the roster's set up? And I think that's the thing that's a little more interesting. Like if they move Jeremy and then we're able to bring him in, that's more enticing, certainly. Yeah, and somebody else asked, does Grant start over 2? I saw the ESPN graphic of 2 coming off the bench. I would be stunned if the guy that just made second team all defense and is kind of becoming, not the heart and soul, but like the identity of the Trailblazers, particularly defensively, in Toumani Camara, is coming off the bench next year. Like, I don't think Scooter Shea is moving him to the bench unless one of them erupts. And even then, that's a tough sell. Scott asked, what would your dream show to be at the Sphere? For those that don't know, we were out at dinner Sunday night. It's 7:15, 7:20 at this incredibly good pizza spot. One of my buddies like, are we going to Backstreet Boys at the Sphere? And I was kind of laughed, and he's like, no, I'm dead serious. And I was like, do I want to go out again in Las Vegas? I'm old. I'm washed. Did pretty good on the tables. I will say that. But do I want to go out again? I've got to be up for a flight at 4 o'clock in the morning. The answer was unequivocally no. I did not want to go hard in the paint, as it were. And so we just said, screw it, and we went and saw Backstreet Boys at the Sphere. And it is an unbelievable atmosphere. If you have the opportunity to go and see any show for a band that you remotely like and they are playing at the Sphere, go. It is an unreal experience. It is the best production thing I've ever seen. You got to hand it to James Dolan. He hit it out of the park, man. That whole setup is crazy. It's like, if you haven't been in there, it's like walking into into a spaceship. It's just unreal, and then the setup is just immaculate. The production quality and the integration, the sound, like, it sounded incredible. I'd want to see, like, Metallica would be amazing there. Unfortunately, Chester Bennington's no longer around. Linkin Park would have been awesome there. I think you have to have a catalog that's pretty damn deep to go there because tickets are not cheap. But it also to kind of like play into the visual experience. But yeah, that's kind of where I ended up. I think there's one other question here. Christopher asked if developing Young is the deal, how long are they going to let Love fire away? I wouldn't worry about it. It's Summer League. Like, Yang getting more touches and more possessions and doing everything in Summer League is not the end-all be-all. Do not when this game starts here in an hour plus, I would not worry about that. Just it's not a thing that's like bigs don't really get the opportunity to shine. I think I was watching the clips of Jokic at his Summer League. I think he averaged like 8, 4, and like 1.5. Like bigs, because bigs need like more stuff around them to be successful. It's harder for them to like create. Now Hansen has some stuff because he can actually put the ball down on the floor, and he's experimented with that to varying levels of success. Some of them, the breakaway or not breakaway, but the pathway dunk where the C's just parted. The Euro step from the 3-point line. He had the one dribble drive where he finished. Like there's some stuff there, but as far as Summer League goes, I wouldn't worry about Caleb Love. Somebody in the comments says they're Chinese and they don't understand why they like to call Yang Hansen a tariff. Without getting into the politics of it all, it's I would imagine a play on words with the tariffs that were imposed by the current presidency on Southeast Asia and other nations in general. It's okay, bud. I'm almost done. And it's a play on that. Nothing more, nothing less. You find something that's socially or zeitgeist appropriate, or in the current lexicon, as it were, and then you throw big on it because Hansen is big, so you call him the big tariff. Probably not politically correct in some form or fashion. Whoever did that, by the way, the graphic was incredible. That was pretty good. I was told by Chinese media members I need to ask Hansen. Apparently, where he's from in China, they're known for incredible barbecue. So I have my due diligence as a media member, but I need to ask him about that. And maybe there's a barbecue name that we can come out with this. All right. So maybe he's got a favorite food from his region that we can all kind of latch onto. All right, we're an hour and 10 minutes deep, and the game's going to start here in a little bit. So we'll do like I said, we'll do I'll do a smaller write-up on some film stuff, but I'll do the deep dive film for all the Patreon subscribers. Maybe not this weekend. I'll probably do it the weekend after that. That way I can have everything ready. Those usually go about an hour, 15, hour and a half, and we'll kind of go from there. So those are the two things kind of coming up, just kind of pulling stuff out of there from Summer League, and then what we know, what we don't know, and then some good, some bad, some things to work on. There's plenty I think we're going to be able to pull out of that. So if you want to be a part of that, head over to the Patreon and subscribe there. You can go to patreon.com/Jacked Ramsays. All right, that'll do it for tonight. Thank you all for the questions. I appreciate you. Like, rate, review, subscribe, do all of the things. Go watch the game tonight. I know some people were wondering if I was going to do a watch along. I'll probably tweet along as I'm taking some notes, but I'm going to sit back and chill because I am still recovering from Las Vegas. If you listened to the radio show yesterday, you know that I was not doing well yesterday. So, again, thank you all for being here. Appreciate you. Take care. Talk soon. Have a wonderful night. Go enjoy the game, and tune in tomorrow to Harris and Marang. I guess I kind of buried a little bit of the lead there. Yes, Patrick Harris, my new co-host. Very excited to work with Harris. I think it's going to be really fun. We had a great show today. We got some more stuff coming. Pay attention to that for some fun stuff coming up. So, again, noon to 3, you can catch us on 1080 The Fan. And other than that, Jacked Ramsays, it should be patreon.com/Jacked Ramsays, at Danny Marang on Twitter, across social media. Take care. Have a wonderful night. Talk soon.